along. Nick, my friend, how are you?
Doing well, buddy. I just pulled an all-nighter.
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna get to that. The Last of Us, man. We were talking about this for forever, like weeks and weeks in advance. We were counting down. We were both pretty ready for this game, and we wanted to get an episode out sooner and maybe stream it. But as we got into it, we really just wanted to take our time with it and get the full experience. So here we are, much later than we had planned, but so ready to talk about this game. We have not talked about our reactions to each other. I think I've mentioned to you that I liked it, but that was like as far as it went. Um, so yeah, Nick, after pulling an all-nighter, you did it. Congratulations. What were your thoughts on the game? Because you just finished it.
I did. I literally just finished like a couple hours ago. I personally really liked it a lot. It made me feel a lot of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So if you haven't, okay, we should probably start out by saying if you have not played the game yet, there are spoilers. There are spoilers. We're going to talk about the game in depth. So if
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to know anything that happened, you
Yep.
should probably leave right now.
Yeah, and nothing's off the table because we've waited for so long. We've both been through the experience now, so this is like a safe place where we both finish the game and can let it all out. And we like to talk about things, so yeah.
Or if you want like a different opinion on the game, like you can just stay and like we'll fill you in on like everything that happens and whatnot.
Yeah,
So, well,
for
Kurt,
sure.
how did you feel about this game like as a sequel?
So I think I rate pretty highly on this game, like higher than most people. I personally think it's pretty close to a masterpiece. This combined with the first game are probably my favorite like game series of all time. And I think The Last of Us Part 2 is officially my favorite PS4 exclusive. It overtook Spider-Man for me.
Really?
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Let's go into why. Like why what about this game like rates this over Spider-Man for you?
It feels like such a monumental experience. Like it's more than just a video game. Like going back, I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima now, and it's very clearly like a video game. It's go do this side mission or find the things on the map and wander around. Whereas The Last of Us is concise and everything flows together. The cutscenes and the gameplay, you don't ever feel like you're playing a game. You're just living this experience and interacting. It's almost like a mix between a movie and a video game, and everything is just done to such a high level. Like the execution of the combat and like the enemies and everything is just really well done for me. Yeah, the story is pretty good. We can get into that in a little bit, but overall, I can't stop thinking about this game, and that really says something about like how great it was for me.
What what like resonates with you like about this game? Because like you said, it was like a cinematic experience in
Yeah,
like
it's.
a movie.
I mean, yeah, like just so that's what I want out of a video game. I don't want to run around and just shoot random things. I want to experience the story. I want to feel like I've been through something, and that game really like everything, every element comes together to make this feel like a huge experience. And it's a traumatizing one. It's really dark and really depressing, and it's definitely not a fun experience. But I liken it to kind of like an indie movie where it tells the story that the mainstream audience isn't going to want to see or hear, but it's an important story and one that's really impactful, and I think that's worth putting out there.
What was your favorite part of the game?
Like gameplay wise, or just like the whole experience.
The whole experience. Like, was there a certain chapter that you liked better, or a certain area, or a certain like?
Um, so all the flashback scenes were really up there. I think the birthday party at the museum that like really touched my heart. Like Joel and Ellie are two of my favorite fictional characters of all time, and that scene just it broke me really.
Oh my god, oh, that was such a cool scene. Like,
Mhm.
and the fact that they straight up like referenced like Jurassic Park without fully referencing Jurassic Park,
They skirted just so they didn't get sued. It was great.
just on that line.
Did you put the hat on the dinosaur?
Of course I did, and I put the hat on Joel.
Yes. Yes, I love it.
I got the achievement for that too.
Yes. So good. Such a good, nice little touch. Yeah, in the space launch, that man, that was incredible. The fact that Joel went and like went out of his way to find that recording and gave Ellie that experience, like in The Last of Us, there are a few moments like that, like the giraffes and just different things, like some moments of levity. And this game didn't have as much of that. And this one moment really like carried the rest of the game for me.
Honestly, yeah, I feel like that was the flashback scene, like because that was the first flashback scene that you get to, and you just really see how Joel's character had developed with his time with Ellie and how much of just like a softer soul that he become because of her.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have a lot. I have a lot more to say about that.
Yeah. So, what was your like favorite part of the game?
That was up there for me. Um, I love Lev. I love. I
I knew you
love
would love
Lev.
Lev.
Oh my god, that is such a sweet little baby. I wish they had put him in the game just a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But the moments that he is in the game are so impactful.
Mm-hmm. It's great to see the next generation because he kind of fills Ellie's shoes from the first game too, where like he's a kid and he's totally like lost out on his own, but he can also handle himself.
And it's really interesting to me how much he makes Abby grow as a human being.
Mm-hmm. I think there's definitely a comparison to be made between Abby and Lev and Joel and Ellie. Like their like storylines and arcs are about the same, whereas Ellie made Joel this more human, compassionate person, and he learned to love again after like the traumatizing events he had been through. And I think Lev did the same thing for Abby, and that's kind of the key of the game. Like, I know a lot of people don't like this game, and I totally understand that. If you're not able to come around and see Abby as not the villain, then this game just doesn't work for you. You have to be able to sympathize with her, and Lev is like the key to that for me.
Absolutely. And in fact, like Lev was the whole reason why Dina was still alive.
Mm-hmm.
Like Lev stopped Abby from killing Dina because like at that point for her it switched from revenge to humans
Yep.
because of Lev.
Yep.
The game was just so beautiful. What okay, there's obviously a lot of deaths in this game. A lot. Okay, who was like the saddest death for you?
Saddest death, obviously Joel. Besides that, I'll just throw that out because that was like I already mentioned he was like one of my favorite fictional characters. Of the newer characters or like the people that have been around, I'd probably say Yara just because it came out of nowhere and it was like a slap in the face.
I thought, I definitely agree because like you spent all this time trying to save her,
Mm-hmm.
and like Lev had just killed his mom
Mm-hmm.
because she came at him
Yep.
and was attacking him, and his sister was like his keeper basically, and
Mm-hmm.
his sanity.
Yeah. What about you?
Uh, Yara definitely a weird one. This is a weird one. This is like real low key. But like when you're going back through the aquarium on day 3 of Seattle
Mm-hmm.
as Abby and you come across Alice's body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know why that just like hit me on like a weird chord and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
ooh. Like it wasn't even Owen and Mel.
Mm-hmm.
It was uh
But see, I didn't put that together until like pretty late in the game that Alice was the dog that Ellie killed. Like I thought it was just some dog that attacked her. So like when that moment came, I was like, damn.
yeah. It like I didn't put that together until like I was coming back through the aquarium because I knew you knew about Owen and Mel already.
Mm-hmm.
You knew you were gonna find them,
Yep.
and then I forgot that as soon as you get into a certain part of the aquarium, as soon as you open a door, a dog comes running towards you as Ellie, and you like immediately kill it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god. Like, I think we should probably touch on that a second. How did you... Okay, this is, like, very controversial. But I think it served a purpose. There was a lot, like, if you played as... Like, when you played as Ellie, there was a lot of, like, animal killing. Or, like... mindless killing, which is most of the game anyways. How did you feel about that, especially whenever you started playing as Abby?
Yeah, I mean, it sucked, and I did find a way to... I found myself... That was the one time I stuck to stealth, was when the dogs were around, because I just didn't want to kill the dogs. So I, like, snuck through all those parts and, like, made it pretty well. I didn't have to kill any of the dogs except for Alice. But,
it was impossible to not.
Yeah, right. You can't not do that one. But I also understand that that's like her journey. They want you to feel uncomfortable because she's going to the point of no return. Like, Joel's death has made her this monster. And I think that's kind of one of the intrigues of the game, is they're bringing you on this journey with Ellie, this character that you love so much. And even though you don't agree with all the things that she's doing, like, you're still there for her because you want to see her story out.
I like that. I like that a lot. I think it's really interesting. I feel like Abby's story actually brought a more human element to it. Even before Lev.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that's part of just they're on the same path, but at different times. Like, Abby's had her revenge. She killed Joel, which we need to talk about still. That's a huge moment. But, and then she starts to realize that she didn't get the satisfaction from it that she wanted. She still feels empty. She has all this remorse now, and like her friends are leaving her because she was so dedicated to this one cause. She was kind of a shitty person there, and she realizes all the mistakes she's made. So this starts at like the redemption arc for her, whereas I think that's where we find Ellie at the end of her game.
Yeah. Right. I mean, the whole, like, a lot of the focus of the game is about revenge and how it's not what you think it is.
Right.
So I think we should probably talk about Joel's death here.
Yeah, let's backtrack. Let's go to the beginning of the game, to the moment that is so divisive but so, like, key to this story.
Before we get into this, let me ask you this. Was there a way around Joel's death?
I mean, they could have, but I think this is a good ending for his story because, like I've said many times, like, Joel was not a perfect person. He definitely burned his bridges and did some terrible things. And even in the hospital, like, we sympathize with Joel and we want him to live because, like, we've gone through this journey with him. But in the world, in the context of the world, like, saving Ellie and stopping them from trying to create a virus, that put a lot of targets on his head. And it definitely makes sense that Abby would come after him, being that he killed her dad. So it makes sense for me, and it stops them from making any terrible spin-off games, so I'm okay with that too.
I think they did a good job, especially with the flashbacks and everything like that, because, like, even though you don't play as Joel, like, you get a good bit of Joel in the game.
Right. And you see, like, that he kind of had his peace. He was living comfortably. He, like, found everything that he had wanted this whole time. He was finally able to breathe and have, like, a family and a community again, so that was really nice.
And that scene towards the end of the game where he stood up for her at the bar, and then she tells him to fuck off, basically. Actually, I think she does tell him to fuck off. And then, like, she visits him later on and has, like, a talk with her. And he's like, if I, in the hospital, I do the same exact thing again, even with the knowledge I have.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the part that's most heartbreaking to me. Like, I'm not going to lie, I teared up a little bit playing this game, and just thinking about the fact that their relationship had come to that. Like, at the end of the game, Ellie knew that Joel was lying about what happened at the hospital. she knew she could have been the cure, and she has to come to terms with that and try to forgive Joel. Like she said, she can never forgive him, but she can kind of like move on from that. And they were just at the crux of that. Like she was coming around, and the whole thing with the guitar was really touching. And Joel was finally coming to terms with the fact that he needed to apologize to move on, and that's when he was taken from her. So it was like this thing that was about to happen to kind of start to repair their relationship that never got to happen.
At least they got to have that talk, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
At
for sure.
least, like, and that was my big thing, was like, that was probably one of the last conversations they'd had together.
Mm-hmm.
And like we see that, especially going back through the game, you know, you start off and you kind of are like standoffish to Joel and shit like that.
Right.
And then, you know, pretty much almost immediately, like you start going on patrols and whatnot, and you're just like sour about everything. Mm-hmm. And then that whole entire thing happens where he gets kidnapped, and
yeah.
That was like, honestly, I think the way that Ellie's character was designed and her flashbacks and everything like that, I feel like that was very like realistic to what PTSD actually is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's something that like subtly sneaks its way in and then like really bears its head at the end when Abby's on the farm. Oh, such a nice little touch.
Oh yeah. It like definitely made me feel a little bit more for her character, because like after playing as Abby, I thought there was a little bit more of a human element in Abby's story. Because we already know Ellie and Joel's story.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you that like different perspective. And then I was like, no, like that was her like person.
Mm-hmm.
But she did have the opportunity to say no and just live out her life with Dina.
Right. And exactly. Yeah, look at all the things that she threw away from the beginning. Like, she could have not gone to Seattle and, like, you know, been devastated, but not sought out that revenge and still lived a very, like, pretty happy life. But it's something within her, like, she's so traumatized with that experience, and it happened so quickly that rage is kind of instilled in her just because of the world, that she had to go do it. She was so driven by that.
And Tommy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tommy was, honestly, like, I've said it a million times, I don't think there are heroes and villains in this game because, you know, it's just the world it is. Like, everybody's looking out for themselves. But Tommy is, like, kind of the villain of this game in that all of his choices drive the story in a, like, bad direction for Ellie.
They really do, though, honestly, because she, like, since that was Joel's brother, she just took whatever he said.
Right.
And did it. So, like, especially towards the end of the game, actually at the end of the game, like, she had the choice to stay with Dina and just live happily.
Yep.
She didn't have to go after Abby.
Yep.
But also, I, like, had this thought in the shower today. I was, like, sitting there, and I was like, no. She had that choice, and she chose it. But Abby and Lev wouldn't have been alive had it not been for
True.
Ellie coming back.
Yeah, this is very true.
So, like, in a way, like, she was meant to go make that peace.
Yep. Instead, Abby and Lev. I could see, I don't know if it'd be a sequel or, like, just a smaller, like, side story of Abby and Lev, like, when they get to wherever they're going.
I wanted to see that. I really did. I was like, I see where Ellie's going. I was like, but I don't know what's going to happen to those two.
Right. Yeah, that's why, if I have any complaints about this, it's that there's so much crammed into this story and all of it's happening so fast. Like, I kind of wish we had more on either end of it, to either in, like, a movie or comic series, book, anything, to kind of, like, introduce you to the newer characters, to, like, set you up with how we are, because a lot of the game in the beginning is pretty slow, just, like, setting up the world. If we had some other, like, text out there to kind of, like, get us caught up, that would have helped a lot.
Honestly, yeah, that would have like I agree with the text, but like the creators would have had to make that.
Hmm.
I don't think a secondary source could have done that.
Right. Yeah. No.
I think it would have been like you have to read this comic book before you like play the game or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, I guess speaking of newer characters, like who is your favorite like newer character?
Has to be a tie between Lev and Dina. I think they're both incredible and bring something to the table. I wish we could have gotten more from them just to like know their stories outside of the context of this one, but like for just how they are in this story, I love them to death. They both need to be protected.
Oh yeah, I think Dina's character like I was really hoping they were gonna expand on it just like a little bit more
Hmm.
because you get a few bits and pieces, especially when they're in the synagogue.
Hmm.
But like, and then you know that she's had like a lot of trauma and shit like that. But like the way that she deals with her trauma and like losing her whole entire family, as compared to Ellie, is very drastically different.
Right. Yeah, I feel like they're kind of like yin and yang in that. Like that's why they make such a great like pairing because they kind of keep each other in balance.
Right. Honestly, like Dina was Ellie's like sanity.
Hmm. Yep.
Like Dina like was Ellie's hope for like an actual like sustainable life.
Hmm.
Can we talk about that ending scene?
I don't want to, but yes, we can. Oh my god. So, it's just so heartbreaking because that's literally the journey, like this revenge, and it takes everything away from you, and it takes literally everything away from Ellie. She has nothing left. She has Dina who left. She lost Joel. She can't even play guitar anymore because Abby bit off her fingers. Like she has nothing, and that's like such a weird place to leave it off, but also like it makes sense because that's the journey we've been on the entire time.
Oh my god. So like if we're talking saddest like parts of this game, when you get back to your house that you left with Dina and your son,
Mhm.
and you get back and it's just everything is just empty.
Yeah.
Everything is gone except for your room with your guitar and your art.
Hmm.
It like resonates on a different level.
Yeah. Honestly, one of the most heartbreaking like endings to a video game. Maybe even like up there in movies too. Like that was
Yeah.
just it was gut wrenching.
Yeah. Like honestly, that like yeah, there was a lot of sad moments in that game. But coming back to that empty house
Mm.
was probably like the saddest thing I think I've ever felt like from a
Yeah.
video game or a movie.
Yeah, what a way to end that game. Like as soon as I sat there through all the credits, I just kept sitting there. Like I couldn't move on from that. It was just like soaking up in my head.
Yeah.
Oh, it was brutal.
That I I guess we should switch gears just like a little bit because we've talked about the ending a lot.
Yeah.
What was obviously like there's a lot in this game. So like what was obviously this is a horror movie, horror game.
Hmm.
What was the scariest part, place, or chapter like in this game for you?
A lot of things hit at different levels, but I think the part that scared me the most and that like I had to readjust the way I was playing was when the Seraphites first show up because you don't really see them. They're kind of off like coming towards you and you hear their whistles and then all of a sudden you get shot with an arrow and you have to adjust to this new style of play where these people are hunting you down and you can't hear what they're saying. You don't know if they're telling their friends to like come after you or back off or that they don't know where you are. So just like that primal instinct of like you have nothing, you got to just like figure it out on your own was pretty terrifying.
I think they were the hardest out of all the enemies besides the stalkers
Hmm.
to combat, honestly.
Yeah, they really were. It was an interesting little twist they threw in there. I liked that one. What was your scariest moment?
So like I feel like there's a couple places that like really resonated weirdly with me. Just the way that they were designed and whatnot. Like they weren't particularly like scary, but for some odd reason, like there was two of them in particular. The one makes a little bit more sense. It was when you're playing as Abby and you're on the bottom floor of the hospital with the trauma center, the surgery, and the emergency department, like ground zero, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So that one made sense because it's a hospital. You're at ground zero. You're by yourself. It's dimly lit. That makes sense.
Yeah.
The second one that actually scared me more, for some odd reason, and it wasn't all the time, because you play in the aquarium a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I went through with Ellie, the way that it was lit and the way that like it was so quiet and unpredictable, it like, and when you're sitting there and you're about to go open that door,
Mm.
because you're behind all the exhibits and everything like that, there's nothing, there's no fish, like there's no zombies, there's nobody,
Mm-hmm.
and it just resonates really really weirdly.
Yeah. I will say I was definitely using my like the scanner to like check around corners in that part because I was like something has to come out here, right?
I was sitting there like at the door, like whenever you bust through the door and then you end up killing Mel and Owen, and I was like,
Mm.
Abby, I thought Abby was gonna be, I thought there was gonna be a boss fight, I thought there was gonna be some giant zombie.
Mm.
It was, it wasn't that it was anticlimactic, but it was very like psychologically like, I don't even know the right words for that, honestly.
Mm.
It like resonated real weird, and then like there were times the aquarium was like a better like walkthrough, whatever, because it was either hit or miss with like how it like, yeah.
Mm. Yeah, and that was really a sad part of the game too, because that's where Ellie like discovers that Mel was pregnant and has this whole like turning point where she realizes, oh shit, like I've gone too far, and she at that point is ready to go home, and then Abby shows up and sends her back on that quest.
Right, like that's when that was like day 3, right? Day 3
Mm-hmm.
of Seattle.
Yeah.
So at that point she went back, was like, okay, we're just gonna go home now, guys.
Yep. And then she walks out into the theater lobby, and Abby shoots
Jesse,
Jesse and uh
Tommy,
Tommy
and
too. Yeah.
somehow fucking Tom, and like that's the second time, well, the third time technically, because the first time they let him go because they
Mm-hmm.
captured him and Joel,
Yep.
and then the second time he was the sniper,
Yep.
and she like kicks him off this pretty high ledge,
Mm-hmm.
and I think she shoots him too, if I remember correctly. Somehow he survives, ends back up with Ellie, gets shot again, and
In the
somehow
head.
survives. In the head. In the head, and somehow survives again. How is this man still alive, first of all?
Like everybody drops dead in this series, but Tommy, man, he's going strong.
Right,
Which
like,
kind of subverts expectations, I guess, because when you first see Tommy at the very beginning of the first game, you're like, oh, this guy's gone because he's going to sacrifice himself to save like Joel and his daughter, and
yeah.
it goes the complete opposite way. I think that's what the series goes for. It's always trying to subvert expectations and do something you wouldn't expect.
Right, like, I didn't think Tommy was going to play a big part in the game at all.
Hmm.
But, like, he literally, like, I would use the word manipulated Ellie into going and doing his dirty work for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he really gave her a guilt trip. Like, and I understand it. Like, he's traumatized. He's lost his brother, but at the same time, like, Ellie lost her father figure, and he's really using that to his advantage to like get her to like help him out.
Not to mention, like, at the end of the game, like, he was, like, basically, like, half dead
Mm-hmm.
after, like, he'd gone back to Maria, and she was like, yeah, I don't want anything to do with you anymore. So he'd, like, lost a lot of mobility, lost
Mhm.
his wife, and then lost his brother too.
Yep. So, man, this game's just so sad for everybody. I don't know one person that had a good time in this series.
And then Jesse just gets slaughtered. Like,
Just walking through the door, man. Oh, so sad.
I know. Like, don't get attached to anybody. They will probably die.
Right. Oh man. So, hang on. There was something I was gonna say. I don't remember though. Did you have any problems with the game? Like, was there anything you didn't like?
The only problem I had with the game, and I think I realized like what its purpose was like um at the end of towards the end of the game when you're playing as Abby and Lev and you're looking for the Fireflies.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you get kidnapped
Mm-hmm.
just for no reason. Basically, you don't know who these people are. Like, you don't know why why they told you that they were the Fireflies, and they just decided to kidnap you. And I had a problem with that whole entire group, but I think I know its purpose because like you'd never seen them before, and they don't. But like their purpose was the fact that like, and Ellie even says that at some point in the game, like she like goes and sees them torturing people and torturing like zombies for no reason. And she's like, wow, these people are fucked up. And it gives you like that like outside perspective on like just how like messed up the world is. And like how was this benefiting anything?
Yeah, it is interesting to see all these groups like the Wolves and the Seraphites and their entire history. Like, it doesn't really matter at this point who started the war. Like, they are just two sides that hate each other, even though they kind of want the same thing. Like, they just kind of want to coexist and like survive in the world.
Right. And like I think that like last group was really showed that because it was like it doesn't matter where you go in the world, like whether it be Fireflies, Wolves, Fedra, like whoever it
Mm-hmm.
was, like it's mindless group mentality
Yep.
that doesn't really serve a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
That's like inhuman, and like of course everybody just went through this giant like traumatic 10-15 year experience of like this virus that just ravaged through everything and whatnot. And
Mm-hmm.
so, okay, here's a question, and I meant to put this on our sheet, but I'm gonna ask it now.
Okay.
Kind of an out of the blue question. So, in the first game, we find out that Ellie is immune.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think they didn't do as much as they could have with her immunity in this game?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess that's just not really the story they wanted to tell. Um, but then again, like if they did much with it, it would mean people finding out that she was immune, and that would just not be good for her because people would just be out to kill her. And there's not people like the Fireflies anymore that can actually like try to find a cure. So I don't know. I feel like it was just kind of the expected thing to do. Like, what's going to happen with like Ellie, and is she going to find a cure? So they went the complete opposite direction and had her like hide it the entire time, except for Dina, who didn't even believe her at first.
She does. Well, Abby knew too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because she was. Yep.
I guess also the fact that like at that point in the game, this is like 4 years past all that.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, you're coming down from the infection, and you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to like rebuild or repopulate or whatever at this point.
Right.
So do you even have the need for a vaccine at that point too?
Right. Okay. Yeah, I get that. That's also something cool I thought about this game was in the first one, all the adult characters are talking about like things that happened in our world. Like, we even get Joel talking about Jurassic Park, and then we have Ellie and Abby who grew up pretty much in the apocalypse and don't have that context. They don't know like what the world was like before the apocalypse, and seeing this game through a lot of their eyes was really interesting for me.
And then you have Lev that's completely oblivious to everything.
Just so gone. Yes, I did love when Ellie was walking through Seattle and they found like the convention center and like there was a Comic-Con there, and I forget if it was Jesse or Dina, but they were like, "Oh man, this would have been like your spot."
Yeah, it was Jesse. It
Mm,
was Jesse. I thought a lot of Seattle was really cool.
yeah.
I loved walking through the news station.
As two people who have worked in news, that was pretty fun.
It was like really cool because like they put a lot of detail in it. It wasn't just like thrown together.
Mm,
And like this game was absolutely beautifully designed, like from a technical aspect. So like I was like walking through it, and I like spent a lot of time like just walking through stuff because like so it's really cool because they had like the control panels, the mixers, like everything, the studio cameras like
yes.
set up in certain spots, and I was like, oh my god.
Yes, I walked into the control room and like I saw that there was a window looking out into the studio, and I was like, "Oh man, the director would like be death glaring through this window at the anchors like when we're
Yeah.
done." Like you put those images in your head of like what would have happened there, and that's like makes the world feel so much more alive.
I wonder if anybody nerded out about like some of that stuff as much as we did. I don't think
Yeah,
they did.
probably not. So yeah, that was kind of my gripe about the first game too. Is like it's a very real world. Like you can go and explore it, but a lot of places don't really have anything. Like you'll find some like equipment, like some roll of duct tape or whatever. But really, like a lot of times I'd go somewhere and be like, "Why did I come here? This was pointless." But that's I guess kind of the point is that there wouldn't be this stuff just laying around. Like the world's been picked over at this point. So I definitely understand why it feels so barren.
This one, like, I feel like the first one was a little bit more residential based,
Hmm.
and this one was like literally set in Seattle.
Yeah, the technology definitely helped this game a lot. Like they were able to do a lot more with this one.
Just the amount of like, honestly, like it was pretty flawless between cutscenes and actual gameplay.
Hmm. Yeah, that moment where Abby finds Lev and Yara and they get attacked by the clickers, like you see one coming out of the woods, and then all of a sudden you're in control of Abby and you have to fight this thing off like without even like there nothing, no cut, anything. It was incredible.
Yep. It was it was so like beautifully done, like from a cinematic point of view.
Hmm.
Um, the amount of detail that was put into the game, the amount of love that was put into this game,
Yeah,
it
on every
was
aspect. I love the
yeah.
soundtrack too. The soundtrack's incredible. I have the main theme from the first game as my alarm, so every morning when I wake up at 3 a.m., I hear the Last of Us music.
Oh boy, 3 a.m. Do you have okay? So I told about my problems. Do you have any problems with the game?
Like I said, it's a weird mix because I would totally play more. Like if it was longer, I would 100% play. But I also feel like it ran a little long. I don't know if I needed like something. It needs some kind of like supplemental material to like split the story up a little bit because it just feels like you're in this world for so long, and a lot of it is cinema, like movie based cutscenes. So I feel like there was a better way to do that, but I still absolutely loved it. And there was one other. Oh, they spent so much time talking about all these new aspects, like the dogs and like all the different things in the world. And I feel like everything that they talked about, you see one time. Like there's one mission that focuses on that thing, and then you never have to worry about it again. So that was kind of strange for me. Like I would have liked if they had built up and you have to worry about everything all at once.
My biggest gripe, my actual biggest gripe with this game,
Hmm.
there wasn't enough zombies.
Yeah, I can see that.
That was my like the game was so focused on everything else. And granted, it was like 4 years past at this point, so like your population of zombies is probably starting to dwindle a little bit more. So
Hmm.
that makes sense. But like as Ellie, I fought way more wolves, way more seraphites. then
Hmm.
I maybe went through a couple patches of zombies.
Right. It's kind of the opposite of the first game for me because the technology just wasn't there in the first game, and I was able to like skirt my way around a lot of the stealth things because the AI was just pretty dumb.
Yeah,
And I got like really scared when I had to take on a clicker or something because I never had the right equipment. You couldn't dodge. Like it was just a lot harder in the first game. Whereas in this one, I'm like, oh, thank God, it's just some zombies. Like I'll be okay.
right. Like zombies were way more terrifying in the first game than they were,
Hmm.
except for that one giant battle in the basement of the
Dude,
hospital.
I wanted to talk about that. The Rat King. That guy is insane.
It reminded me so much of G from Resident Evil.
I was gonna say that. Like it feels like a Resident Evil fight scene.
Yeah,
And I've been listening to. They started the Last of Us podcast,
yeah.
and it's like the creators and everybody talking about the first two games. And somebody mentioned that like directly that it was like a lot of the series is based off of or like inspired by Resident Evil, and that was like a Resident Evil battle like boss fight they could fit in there.
That absolutely, like that whole entire sequence reminded me so much of fighting G in the basement of like it was like actually any of the G forms, honestly.
Hmm. Yeah, but definitely the first one for sure. And like when you
Yeah.
fall through, yeah.
Yeah, because it was even set up like it like you had to
Hmm.
run and gun to a certain extent, and then you have
Yep.
like pieces coming off of it too.
Yeah, so good. I like that part.
I did too. Like it took me a while to figure out what I was doing, and then I was like, oh, it's like Resident Evil. Okay.
I cannot tell you how many times I died in that like boss fight because I was just not ready for that. I wasn't expecting a boss fight from The Last of Us like that.
Honestly, like the way that that scene is played compared to the rest of the game is completely different.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Because like you're in stealth mode most of the time, like you're trying to sneak up on things, and then all of a sudden you get thrown into this boss fight where
Mm-hmm.
you have to run and gun and not let it get close to you, and it's completely different.
Yep, you're like wasting ammo like it's nothing. You're doing everything The Last of Us spends its entire time telling you not to do. It is so fun.
I know. I was like once I actually figured out what to do, I was like, oh.
100% agree. So did you have a favorite mission or like area in this game?
I like the flashback scenes a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were really cool. I mean, like as far as the actual like game and not so much the flashbacks.
Mm-hmm.
I would say exploring Seattle and the first day I was there was like really fun.
That was awesome. I wish there was more of that. Like each day was an open world kind of aspect.
I like that it was half open world and half not open world.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was just kind of cool to like there's a lot of stuff to explore on day one. Like in Seattle, you didn't have to go straight to your objective.
Right. It's nice they gave us the choice too, because you could literally do like one or two things and then move on to the next world. But if you want, you can go and explore and scavenge all these buildings and see everything it has to offer.
Right.
And I liked the bank too, with all the zombies that were robbers trying to get into the vault. That was fun.
Oh my god. I like the music store a lot too. That was cool. And you just pick up
Yeah.
a guitar and
Oh, every scene with the guitar in this game, man, just right here. I pointed to my heart.
your heart.
It was a little low, so I had to.
Emphasize. It's in this general vicinity.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was also really impressed with the diversity in this game. Like, there's so many strong female characters, but also just like, we got minorities, we have LGBTQ like representation, we have everything. It was really cool to see from a
It
video game
was
because you don't get that a lot.
no, because and I will very briefly touch on this. I'm not gonna go too far into detail. I feel like that was a lot of people's biggest gripe with how
Hmm.
much they hated it
Yeah.
was because it's not a big buff white dude shooting everything.
Mm-hmm.
and you actually had to think about things.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't just a story of this is good, this is bad.
Right.
It was no, this is people trying to survive. This is a different perspective. This
Mm-hmm.
is why this person did this.
Yeah.
Because in their mind, like, they think they're fully right, which is like Joel, in his mind, morally, saving Ellie was morally right.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I totally agree. And yeah, we don't want to get too much into it. Like, if you didn't like the game, sorry, that sucks. But, like, move on, find something else. I don't know. I hate that you didn't like it, but there's also a ton of people out there that like it. So, just,
Yeah,
like, live and let live. But maybe
it's
just don't judge it so, like, actually play the game. I know a lot of people didn't play the game and just hate it on concept.
this video game took every bit. Like they said it's about 40-hour gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely took me longer. Granted, I died a whole lot, but like also I just actually took my time to explore and actually enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there was much that I tried to like skip through except for some of the patches of like a lot of enemies.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, no,
Yeah.
like why not take the time to get your optional dialogue from your characters to get to know them better? Like
Right.
why not find your like little secrets and whatnot? Like
Mm-hmm. And that kind of encourages me to go back and play a second time because I definitely didn't find all the collectibles. But I want to go back and re-experience the game at some point down the road. Not anytime soon. My heart can't take that. But I want to go back and find all the collectibles and everything.
to stay up until 6 in the morning with that, like holy shit.
Oh man, I bet you were like emotionally wrecked after that. Like no sleep. That ending. Oh.
Not to mention, okay, so like I don't know if you had the same thought that I did. So, so like it felt like they were gonna end it several times, right?
Yeah.
And it reminded me so much of that time that we went to go see Place Beyond the Pines.
Oh my god.
And we thought like we thought they were gonna end it and then they had a whole nother hour of like movie. And that's
Yeah.
exactly how I felt. I was like, is this the end? And then like all of a sudden like there's a whole nother chapter. And then you're like, is this the end? And then
Yep.
there's like a whole nother chapter.
It just
And then
keeps
like
unfolding.
whenever it actually gets to the end, you're like, is this the end? Are you sure? Are you sure
Are
this
you
is the
done?
end?
You're
Are
not going to
you
interrupt
done?
the credits to be like, wait, we need revenge on Ellie now.
Right.
No, yeah, I definitely get that. Like, it feels like a pretty structured. At first, you're like, oh yeah, it's gonna play through these days as Ellie or whatever, and then you switch and you go back to Abby, and you're like, all right, so we're gonna replay some of Abby, and then you get to the end of that, and then it's like, oh, but later on, she finds out about Abby again, and you gotta go find. It's like, just calm down.
I thought that ending dragged just a little bit.
Yeah, I totally agree.
That was, yeah, that's just my personal opinion though. Not that it's bad by any means, but it
Mhm.
just like, all right, man, you've psyched us out 10 times now about this ending.
Yeah, at some point you just want to be done, especially since like that whole last part doesn't really feel that much like the gameplay. Like it's a lot of
No.
walking around and just going through the emotions of the story.
Right. And like they had these really big, long, dramatic like fade in and fade outs into those scenes. So like, all right. Was there
So
anything? Oh, go
do you
ahead.
yeah, do you think they should make another game or do spin-offs or anything, or should they just leave it with these two games?
Just leave it.
Yeah,
Just like you have a great thing going.
yeah.
Don't milk it.
Hmm.
It's just gonna it's not gonna be the same.
Hmm.
Because you've already implemented Abby's story in. And honestly, she doesn't really have much more story. She's probably gonna go off and live with Lev,
Mm-hmm.
like she already has been.
Yeah.
Everything is inferred. It's like the end of Prisoners. It's
Right.
inferred.
Yeah.
You don't need a definite ending. Like the audience can make their own ending.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of the beauty of this game. Yeah, I don't want another game or anything. I do want to see the HBO series and what they do with that, because it's going to tell the story of the first game. Have you heard much about this?
No, I like heard you mention it before.
Yeah, so they're going to go and tell, they're going to make a show of The Last of Us, and it seems like they're just going to make it, like, adapt it from the game. So I'm interested to see that. Part of me, like, the part that loves Ellie so much, wants a better ending for her, but at the same time, like, I'm content with what we got.
Are they gonna? My only problem is I feel like they're gonna go too like Walking Dead, and I swear to God, if they put in a character that's not in the game, that ends up like. I mean, it is HBO though, so.
Mhm. Here's how they can do it and make it interesting: is if they do like 2 or 3 seasons of the actual game. Hell, they can even split it up, be like, it's 4 seasons in the game, so 4 seasons for this show. And then if they want to continue it, show Ellie and Joel and Jackson, show their lives, show some of Abby, like, give us some of that backstory that I was saying about this game. Like, just take some of that time to develop those characters more. So when you go back and play the second game, you feel more emotionally attached to those smaller characters.
Develop more of the Seraphites.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Develop more of like what their beliefs are and like where they came from, because like we got a lot of the wolves
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of everything else, but we didn't get hardly anything from the Seraphites.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. It'll be interesting, and like I always have issues with like an adaptation between like a video game or a comic book to like a series.
Mm.
So I'm a little skeptical, but like, do you know who's all cast, or like who would you cast?
I don't think anyone has been cast yet. I know Neil Druckmann, the guy that directed the second game, is like heavily involved, so that gives me some hope.
Okay.
Um, as for who I'd cast, I think Joel should be Carl Urban. I think he would
Okay.
be absolutely perfect. And Abby, she's a little too old for part one, but I think Caitlin Dever from Booksmart, Amy, would be incredible. Like, she has that look.
For like her flashbacks. She's not buff enough to be Abby.
No, Ellie.
Oh,
Ellie.
Ellie. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I was like,
Yeah, like,
Abby.
she's a little too old to play like the kid version of Ellie. I don't know if they would
Yeah.
have to age her up or what, but I don't know any kid actors that could do that part right now.
I'm sure they could find one.
Mm-hmm. But yeah,
somewhere.
like, yeah.
I was
Those
like,
are my
Abby.
picks. Yeah, Abby, I don't know.
I want to say that Abby was so built for tough though. Like I love that though. Like I thought that was dope. I was like sitting there and like I got to play as her, and there's that scene with her with the tank top, and I was like, I like had to like rotate my camera a couple times. It's like, holy shit, her arms are bigger than mine.
Which makes the gameplay fun. It kind of switches it up because she plays a lot more like Joel. Like, when you're playing as Ellie, you're sneaking around and doing all the stealth missions, and then you take control of Abby and you're just fucking smashing people's heads into walls and curb stomping them, and oh my god.
You're doing a lot more jumping and like stuff like that. I thought that was cool though. I was like, oh, sick. Like you get to play as like basically the Hulk. Like
It's this woman that was so driven by revenge and met up with this group that like gave her the ability to work out and train and build her body to that massive, like, because she couldn't have done that on her own in this world. There was no way to have the right amount of protein and like stay healthy, and yeah. But like having this group that provides her with that, as long as she like goes out on their missions and stuff, was a great way to do that. It was really interesting.
I mean, it just shows you how much revenge actually drove her. Like,
Yep.
Like she like loved her dad, and like okay, this is probably like one of my last questions here. Do you think if Joel hadn't have killed her dad, that this would have ever happened?
No. Hell no. Everybody would have been fine. It would have been great, but we wouldn't have had the game that we have because Ellie would have been killed. She would have died at the end of the first game.
Well, I guess that was my next question, too, was like, all right, let's say if it ends the exact same way. It ends the exact same way, but the only thing is that Joel leaves the doctor alive.
Oh, okay.
Do you think that that would have impacted anything?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that story would have gone at that point. I don't know if we would have gotten a sequel, really. I don't think it would have happened the same way. I don't think Abby would have come for him. I don't think anybody would have come for him at that point.
I feel like some of the Fireflies would have.
Yeah, maybe Owen. So maybe it's the same, but it's not as brutal, I don't think. I don't think anybody has that
revenge
aspect. Revenge aggression that Abby has.
She has a lot of pent-up aggression until she meets Lev.
Yep. Let me tell you, I have seen a ton of The Last of Us mini golfing memes, and I'm tired of them.
Mini golfing?
Yeah, everybody's like, oh man, The Last of Us 2 is such a great golf simulator. She bashes his head in with a golf club.
Oh my god. Dude, that scene was so brutal, though.
That, it needed to be, though, because you need to have some sort of, like, backing for Ellie. Like, you don't agree with her decisions, but you're attached to Joel, and seeing him go like that, and seeing Ellie watch him go like that, just, like, makes you kind of complicit in her going and killing all these people.
Right, if it would have happened any other way, if she would have just found out that he died, or, like, something like that, or, like, never found his... I guess the only other way they could have done it is if he had gone lost and she had gone looking for him, like, extended that more instead of, like, actually, like, seeing his face get smashed in and whatnot.
It feels more personal that way, and it feels more justified, and I think that's their whole point, was they wanted to make a game that truly felt justified, not something for a cash grab, but a story that fit in well with the continuation of the first one. And, you know, it's a deep and dark story, but it drives the fact that all this is, like, pretty necessary, and it fits in well with the characters and where their story would go.
It's, like, really interesting because, like, everything is so, like, I guess the word I can use here is, like, unorthodox. Because, like, it's not what people want to see or expect from a video game.
Right.
I think it's actual, like, more realistic violence. It's not your, like, Call of Duty. It's not your Halo. It's not... You're just, like, mindlessly killing people. It's more like, why? Why are we killing people? Like, what's the motivation here?
Yep.
How, like, no, like, if we're gonna be violent, like, it's gonna be gruesome. Like, you're gonna actually, like, feel some type of emotional response from the violence that you're emitting in this video game.
Yep. And every aspect comes together to drive that point home. The fact that all the enemies have names and, like, relationships. If you kill somebody, there's going to be somebody that screams out in, like, agony. And just the way that, like, you can turn around and see Ellie stabbing people in the throat, and their facial expressions. You can see, like, the veins popping in their face and, like, the true agony. It's like, these are not pretty deaths. These are gruesome. Like, you have to feel bad about doing these things.
Right.
Like, each death, each gunshot, like, has so much impact.
Yeah, because I just remember, like, playing last night, and I, like, had to, like, sneak up behind some dude and, like, kill him. Because there was, like, so many enemies, obviously. Like, it's just inevitable that you don't kill anybody in the game. Honestly, that might be an interesting playthrough. Like, how much of the game, like, what is the least amount of, like, casualties that you can have in this game?
That is interesting, yeah. Like, how much can you stealth this?
Right. Because, like, there's just some that are completely inevitable, but, like, like Alice.
Yeah. Poor sweet Alice.
Sweet Alice. But, yeah, like, each enemy has its own name. Like, It's not just like, oh, like I killed another wolf member. It's like, oh no, I just killed Todd. I just
Yeah.
killed Philip, like
Hmm.
Megan.
Like I think Bear was one of the wolf's dogs, and I heard that name out in the field a lot. And I was like, I didn't kill any of the dogs out there, but I was like, oh, Bear's out here.
Oh, I know. It was just like so like emotionally like, and people don't want that. Like they want like less emotional
Yeah.
investation and
They want more action, straight up action in video games. A lot of people. There are, to be fair, a lot of people that really appreciate what this game did. I'm
I
definitely one of them.
I really appreciate like what like the fact that it made me think
Hmm.
about every single action and like actually added an emotional response by like
Right.
giving you like little things and whatnot, like names and like Abby's story and
Hmm.
all that. Like,
Yeah. But I can definitely also see the other side of people that want more from a video game. They want more action, more running, more shooting, that kind of thing.
right. Was there anything else that we needed to touch on? I was gonna go pull up my notes real quick.
I don't think so. We are at over an hour. This is by far our longest podcast.
Because it was a 40-hour game. It was
Yeah,
a
we had a
whole
lot to get
investment.
through.
Oh my god. Like
Yeah.
and my playthrough was well over 40 hours. What about yours?
I honestly didn't check, but I think I'm right around the 40-hour mark.
Oh, I should probably actually go check that. Yeah, I died a whole lot and then I explored like way more than I should have.
Hmm.
But yeah.
It's finally here. We've been through it. All the build up, our entire podcast, we've been talking about this game.
Wow. I'm glad that I had that experience until 6 in the morning last night.
What a way to play that though, because you're just emotionally and physically exhausted.
There was at one point I'd been playing for a good bit of time and I didn't realize how long I've been playing. So I was like, you know what? Like I'm getting kind of tired. I'm gonna check what time it is. I'm like, I think I'm almost done though. I shouldn't have too much further. And like check the time. It's like 4 in the morning. I like took a deep breath and I'm like, am I really gonna wait till tomorrow to wake up
To
and
the
play
last
this?
little bit.
It's already 4 in the morning. Like,
Yeah.
what's another couple hours? It's fine.
Hmm. I think that's honestly longer than I played in one chunk. Because you said you sat down at like 10 o'clock last night. This was definitely a game I had to play in like small chunks, like hour, 2 hours at a time, because it was just so much, like emotionally, and it was draining.
Yeah, I played in a couple good like 6 or 7 hour chunks of time,
Dang.
which is really interesting for me because I don't have that type of attention span at all.
Yeah. No, this one really drew you in. That's interesting.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I couldn't stop thinking about it even when I wasn't playing it. But I would get to a point where I'm like, okay, I need a break. I need to walk away from this.
Right, like and especially between the days, between
Mm,
like each of the days, because something big emotionally would happen at the end of the day, and you would be like, "This is a good stopping point for me, honestly."
yeah. Yeah. In all of Ellie's dreams, in Abby's dreams too, man. Oh, so good.
The trauma, yeah, they did a
Yeah.
really good job portraying like trauma in this game
Mm,
and like what it does to your brain and like everything like that.
for sure.
Well, Kurt, I think we should probably wrap this puppy up now.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much exhausted everything we have to say about this game. Glad you finished it and you liked it. You had a good time. I'm glad we can finally talk about it, and I don't have to hold anything back anymore. There were a few times where we'd be talking about something, and I'd be like, I can't say that yet because you haven't gotten
Oh,
there.
oh, yep, yep.
I think it was pretty early on too. Like I wanted to talk about some things that Abby was doing, and I was like, "You don't know about Abby yet. You don't know
And
that we're gonna play as her."
that was a cool thing too. Like, there was one of the chapters I had to go look up a guide for on IGN, and it was really cool because they were really good about they gave you day 1, day 2, day 3 of Seattle, right? But then once you hit day 3, it's literally told you, like, will not tell you the title of these chapters because of spoilers.
Nice. So then you would kind of figure that you were playing with somebody else for those 3 days again.
No, I wasn't sure. I knew there was like a twist, but I couldn't tell exactly what the twist was, which is really nice because nothing was spoiled for me.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm glad they did that.
I know. I was like, oh my god. Like, I only needed to use the guide like twice, I think it was. Because that big fight with the Rat King in the basement, I needed it for. Because I was like, this is completely different than the rest of the game.
Yeah.
I think it was day 2 as Ellie I needed it for. I got lost or something like that. I couldn't figure out what I was supposed to do, and I needed it for that. But yeah.
Oh, there was one more thing I wanted to mention, and I've been wanting to talk to you about this for forever, and felt glad I got it in there. Did you notice? So Abby's really afraid of heights, right? Like, that's the big part of her story, and like a lot of it is her overcoming that fear. If you go up to a ledge that has like a drop to it, they give it the vertigo effect where the ground looks like it's falling. It's really interesting. Yeah.
That's like, dope.
That's not even in a cutscene or anything. That's just like walking around the game and you look down at the drop and the ground looks like it's falling. And that is such a nice touch because it like makes her anxiety and her fear so much more real, and like it makes it feel like not something that's tacked on. Like, you feel that in the game. You really feel afraid of heights for her.
Yeah, and the fact that like you start swaying and your controller starts vibrating, like if you're on on one of those planks or whatever.
So well done.
There was, oh my god, I think my favorite death that I accidentally like had was I was like that part where you're up on the Seraphites walkways to get to the hospital, and I was playing with Lev, and like he's like, all right, like just be careful, like, and it shows you the balance thing. So we're like walking across the final like board, right before you fall in to that hotel that you have to crawl down. So I was walking across and I felt my controller just like very slightly vibrate, and then all of a sudden she ended up flying off the edge, like the completely opposite direction. Like, I didn't do anything. Like, I was like, what just happened? I mean, like, it looked like she jumped. It looked like she straight up jumped. Like, I was like,
she yeeted out of there.
I was like, was this a glitch? Like, what did I do? Like,
did you play around with photo mode at all?
No.
You find some really funny faces in photo mode. Like, the animations of the faces are incredible, but there are some funny looking faces. There's a ton of Last of Us 2 memes because the faces look so funny.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
I'm gonna send some to you now that you're done with the game.
Oh my god, yes.
But yeah, we should really cut this off because I could go forever and ever about this.
Right, at this point, people are just listening to our everyday banter.
Right. Which I get to hear real soon, because you're coming up here. We get to talk in real life. I'm excited.
IRL.
IRL. That's going to be incredible. We got like a week and a half.
I'm stoked.
Yes. We won't be able to do much because, pandemic, but we're going to have a chill bro time.
We are.
Yeah.
We are for sure.
So, if you're still here listening to this, thank you. What are you doing with your life? You're just listening to two friends blabber for hours.
About this really dope video game that if you don't have and you were thinking about buying, maybe you should buy now.
Definitely.
You're going to strap yourself in for an emotional roller coaster, but it'll be a good time.
Bring the Kleenexes.
Bring the Kleenexes. You're going to cry.